Hello and welcome to our webinar, Using Modern Technology to Deliver the Exceptional Lawyer-Client Experience, presented by LawPay. Please take a moment to look at the chat area in the lower right corner of your screen. You will see a drop-down menu with options next to the words Send To. If you have any technical problems today, or if you would like to ask a question of our presenter, Tom West, please send a message to host. If time allows, I will conduct a brief Q&A with Tom at the end of today's webinar. A recording of this webcast will be available later today, and we will send all registrants an email tomorrow with the proper link. Today's presenter is Tom West, CEO of LawPay. Tom is a career growth business leader, having led multiple businesses as CEO and president. As CEO at LawPay, he is responsible for guiding all channels and working across all teams and departments to take growth at LawPay to the next level. I would now like to turn today's presentation over to Tom. Tom.
Awesome, Helen. Thank you very much for having me. Hopefully you guys can see my screen. Appreciate being here today with the ALA. We are a proud VIP business partner of the ALA, and particularly our LawPay solution for large firms and custom enterprise solutions is a good fit for large firms. But that is not the topic of today's presentation. In fact, we're focusing not on an overview of LawPay at all. And so if there's some interest in LawPay, we can handle that separately. Today's topic is about using modern technology to deliver an exceptional lawyer-client experience. And I know as administrators of larger firms, this is a really important topic for you, and a challenging topic to be able to execute against. So I hope to be able to give you guys some thoughts that you can take back to your firms to try to make a difference in your lawyer-client experience. What is all this about? It's about the magic of loyalty. We're going to talk a lot about customer retention and how to measure it, how using modern technology can keep clients happy, and some relatively simple, straightforward practice strategies that you can implement to utilize these lessons. So let me take a moment and ask you to sit back and think a little bit about a positive customer experience that you've had. It probably doesn't take you long to come up with a story of how that made a lasting impression on you and a positive view of that brand or experience. And then take a moment to think about the opposite side. When you've had a poor customer experience, you can probably think about a reason in seconds. The feelings that you had afterwards, you probably felt angry, upset, annoyed, frustrated, a combination of these emotions. At the end of the day, a positive customer experience is not just about making a client happy, but it can also lead to additional revenue. The best money or marketing money can buy is a excited and happy customer that will promote you to their peers and friends and business colleagues, and that's really what this is all about today. So if I take a step back, I want to go back in the time machine a little bit and share sort of the origin story of some of the science of customer loyalty. And I had the opportunity, I'm going to go back to the early 90s when I was just graduating from business school at the University of Chicago. I had the opportunity to work for a company called Bain & Company. It was my dream job at the time, and I was very proud to work with Bain, who focuses on helping companies solve some of the most significant strategic issues that they are facing. And one of the early projects that we were asked to take on was someone in the advertising industry wanted to understand, one of the major players wanted to understand why Leo Burnett was so consistently the most profitable company in the industry. For those that don't know Leo Burnett, they have a number of brand icons, marquee clients. They had the best clients that wanted to work with them. They had the best employees that wanted to work with them. There was just something about Leo Burnett that was really working year in and year out, and the goal was to really try to decode that model for others to be able to follow for this particular firm. And so in typical Bain fashion, we brought in a partner from our consumer practice who had worked with a lot of professional services firms named Fred Reicheld. He was out of our Boston office. He's gone on to become a Bain fellow and founded Bain's loyalty practice. And Fred came in and really organized us around the data and the science. The goal was to try to understand what was actually driving that level of profitability. And we spent months pulling the data together, trying to really understand. We looked at literally every aspect we could think of about this practice. We looked at their utilization rates. We looked at the industry-wide billing rates and how they compared. We looked at the type of advertising they were doing, the types of clients that they were hiring, the success and efficacy of the advertising and how it was working. And it was really one of our most junior analysts sitting in the back room in a corner who collected the data on client retention across the industry and ran a regression. And it was pretty astounding. This is the actual result of the work, in that they found that the annual client retention rate explained 92% of the variation in the profitability of the industry. 92%. That was an unheard of R squared in this industry and really across any industry. And it was a massive moment for us to be able to crack the code on this particular project. Obviously, client retention was the answer, and that was something that we had to figure out how to do better. And Fred, being the enterprising guy that he was, immediately took to writing a book called The Loyalty Effect, which became a bestseller. And what he did in The Loyalty Effect was able to prove that all client service businesses, this is the number one metric. This is the metric that separates the good from the bad, the extraordinary, the great from the good. And he then went on very quickly. People believe that in those industries believe that loyalty was the answer. But then the question quickly became, how do I measure it? How do I drive it? And so he wrote another two-book series on the ultimate question, which led to the Net Promoter Score being invented.
Hi, Tom. Hey,
yes.
Tom, I'm sorry to interrupt you. This is Carolyn, the host. I'm not seeing your slides advance. If you could just double-check that you are, in fact, sharing your screen. I think we're having some issues from some of our attendees not seeing it. So if you could click share my screen, and just to make sure that you are, in fact, sharing your screen.
Okay.
Okay, there you go. We see you now, and you can continue now. Thank you.
Okay, sure. That's great. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. Can you guys see the books? There we go.
Yes, we do see the books, and we also see some of your notes on the right-hand side. If you want to make your screen a little bit larger, of just the slide itself that you're on.
Okay. So it's sharing the wrong screen. My apologies. Let's see if I can do this here. Share.
We currently see your desktop, and if you are having an issue at all, and I apologize, everyone, there you go. We see it full there. Thank you.
Okay.
Perfect.
I apologize
go right ahead.
for that.
Thank you.
There we go. So what we realized was client retention was the answer, and then what I talked about was the fact that we were then working towards the question that Fred was answering in his second and third book was really around how do you put this into action? How do you measure client retention, and then how do you improve it? And he continues to own Net Promoter Score today. For those that aren't familiar with the Net Promoter Score, it was really a simple question, a singular question on how likely are you to recommend this firm to a friend or colleague. And the Net Promoter is a pretty tough grading scale. For those that answer 9 or 10, they're considered to be a promoter. For those that answer 1 through 6, they're considered to be a detractor. And then those that answer 7 or 8 are passives. And so the difference between the promoters less the detractors equals the Net Promoter Score. And why we're here today is I'm here to say that I believe that we as law firms are in the net promoter business. Why? Because they solve the two big challenges that our firms face. One, they pay for our services, and two, they recommend us to others. And I think that's really the thing that we all should be trying to achieve. And these guys, Fred is not the only one that has studied this. BTI, which is a East Coast-based research firm, studied law firms that invest in their client relationships and found that they collect 30% higher profits, can charge 7% rate premiums across all staffing levels. They collect twice the fees from individual clients, and they experience 35% higher client retention rates, which is really what we're all striving for as firms. And they dug into it further to try to understand what are the things that are driving those great client experiences. And what they found was the two things that mattered the most were the amount of focus that the superior client focus that the firm has, and then the investment in client experience were the two things that stood out even more so than legal skills, the exceptional understanding of a client's business, delivering efficient value-added service, and innovative thought leadership. You know, and I would argue that most law firms today that I talk to are spending most of their time on the right side of this chart and a lot less of their time trying to craft a great client-focused experience. And the goal of this talk is to focus on how can we move more to the left side and benefit from that for our firms. So the question you may be asking is, how are we doing as an industry on this net promoter measure? And the answer is just okay. Our net promoter score as an industry is a 25. That puts us in the zone of airlines and banks, so probably not where we want to be. You know, I tend to be overall an optimist in looking at these, and you know, while this is not the greatest score reflecting our industry and not where we want to be, I tend to look at it as, you know, this is an opportunity where any given firm, if they start doing a few things well, can really differentiate themselves from the pack in terms of creating an outstanding client experience. When you know, I've hired a number of law firms over the years, and I've hired larger firms, lawyers in larger firms and lawyers in smaller firms, and you know, a lot of it is really the perception that we have going in and the interactions that we have, and our clients don't want to have the perception that your lawyers are overworked, or they're not 100% focused on you, or they've got other things going on. What they want to feel like is that this is a modern firm, that it understands your problem, and it's marching you through with the best possible chance of success throughout the whole process. And so what I'm going to do is now talk about some small tools and approaches that you guys may be able to use to help create that modern firm feel by illustrating some old school techniques versus what I think are new school approaches to creating an extraordinary client experience. And the first one really starts with who are you. 90% of clients will research you online. They will try to understand who you are very early and whether or not you're a fit with their firm. The data, industry data, shows that the average client will spend 7 seconds reviewing a website. So you have a very short period of time to captivate their attention before they jump on. And what I find is most law firms tend to look like this, where there's a lot of text. It's hard to figure out, who they're for, what they're doing, versus a approach that's much clearer. In this particular case, this is a law firm in Louisiana that clearly is in personal injury and criminal defense. They do a good job laying that out. They make it easy to see the call to action in terms of what I need to do. They have some industry marks that help me gain some trust and credibility up front, much more likely to call the firm on the right versus the firm on the left. And I think attracting clients is a big part of the problem, the opportunity. So I've always said to create the best client experience, you want to be able to attract the clients that are the best fit for your firm. And so knowing what that looks like going in and then trying to build your marketing efforts around those. Obviously, this particular billboard, I have no idea what this firm does or what kind of clients they're looking for. And so it's not going to help me to be able to distinguish whether or not I'm the right fit client for this firm. Versus I'm a big believer in content-based marketing where you are blogging or writing about the areas of expertise that you have. One example that I would share is that I was a couple years ago looking to buy a firm out of bankruptcy, a company out of bankruptcy. The judge was requiring a stalking horse process be run in order to buy that firm. I had no idea what a stalking horse process was, but I was interested in learning, so I started searching. And I can tell you that any firm that would have written an article on the 5 best strategies to winning a stalking horse bid process, that I would have hired them instantly. But I was not able to find that. I ended up having to hire a general bankruptcy attorney that ultimately didn't work out very well in terms of the end result. If you're interested in looking into that more, Ernie, the attorney, has a law firm autopilot program that you can look at where he writes about different ways to use content marketing in order to help attract the right clients from the beginning. Once you've attracted them and they call in, it's important that that first touch is a positive one. When they've gotten to the point of interest. I'm sharing some really fresh data from the Clio Legal Trends report, where recently Clio put 1,000 law firms to the test. They hired a market research firm that posed as a client and went out and talked to 1,000 law firms, emailed and made phone calls to 1,000 firms to try to understand the response rates that they got. And the results were really not that spectacular. They were spectacularly surprising in a negative way. Only 2 law firms responded in an excellent way, so that means responded within 24 hours, were professional and courteous, and answered the questions that were being asked in the email. And it wasn't much better when you looked at the phone side. We had a few more that responded in an excellent way, but very few were responsive to their clients. And the net of that was ultimately, to me, the punchline was that 60% of the firms that were tested did not even respond at all to the email, and 44% did not respond at all to the phone call. And to me, this is what is setting the foundation for the relationship. If it takes you 72 hours to respond, or you don't answer my specific question, I'm going to make the assumption that that's how important I am to your firm, versus somebody who responds quickly and answers my questions quickly is going to be seen by me as somebody who really does care about me and what I am trying to accomplish. Once you do win the client, I think efficient onboarding is a really important part of the process. So don't send a lot of avoid as much as possible sending PDFs and Word documents back and forth of your client onboarding documents. To the extent that that can be an automated process, and you've got some electronic signature capability, I think that's a very important process, because from a client perspective, I really don't value the contracting part of the process. I really just, once I've picked an attorney, I want to just go. In fact, at the services firm I ran a number of years ago, we launched DOCUSIGN and found amazing results that we saw significantly lower changes to the contracts as we sent them out, and our close rate went up dramatically just by making it easy for clients to get onboarded. So if you don't have an electronic signature process, I would highly recommend getting one for your firm. And everything doesn't have to be about modern technology, by the way, in terms of creating a thoughtful experience. I think we're all used to getting these kinds of onboarding emails that are obviously form emails, just welcoming us to the product or service. What we do at LawPay to try to create a little bit of a positive experience for our clients, a little bit of a surprisingly great experience, is that each time we bring someone new on the platform, they get a surprise package from us that has a welcome kit, and their account manager sends them a handwritten note with their phone number, so that client knows that LawPay is going to be there for them whenever they need us. Scheduling meetings is another area of opportunity to improve the client experience immensely. We've all had those experiences where you're back and forth trying to find a time that works for the client, trying to find a time that works for the lawyer that's not value added on either side. There are so many solutions out there for automatically scheduling meetings. Your firm app has one, Calendly has one, Clio Grow has just launched one in their solution. A number of options, but I encourage you to envision a scenario where the client has something bad happen to them related to their case on a Saturday, and they've got to get in touch with their attorney, and they want to know they've got a meeting early on Monday morning, but they can't get in touch with anybody until the office opens, versus in a Calendly situation like this, I could go and book the first meeting on Monday morning, and I'd be feeling pretty good. At least the rest of the weekend, I'd know that I have time scheduled and can share the changes in the case first thing Monday. Document sharing is another area of opportunity. I think you'd be surprised as to how much clients want to participate in the process. I know from my perspective as a client, I want to review the documents, but I have to review them at times when I'm available. That's usually early Saturday morning or early Sunday morning when there's less going on. But what I don't want to do is have to go through a whole bunch of emails and find a whole bunch of documents. What is great is if the documents are all organized in some cloud-based sharing capability where you've organized them, and I can literally go through them one after the other, end to end, to really be able to understand, some of the subtleties that are involved in my case. Process is another area to think about. I want to know, this is a big event in my life as a client or my business life in the case of buying that company out of bankruptcy. I want to know that you've done this before. I want to feel that you're working me through a process. What I don't want to feel is that this is like these shelves would indicate and suggest that this is something that you've never been through before. The more thoughtful, the more I'm feeling like you are my guide throughout this whole process, the better it's going to be. And ultimately, you may have your own internal processes as something you can build, or some of the enterprise class solutions, cloud-based solutions, on-prem solutions also have great client management processes inside them if you need them. Billing, near and dear to my heart. The paper check is dying a slow death. It's amazing to me that we're still in this day and age. There are people that are willing to put their name and their address and in some cases, their social security number or their business ID and their account number in detail and send it out into the world. Increasingly, people are recognizing that that's the least secure way to pay, and it's the most complex when you're talking about having to get a PDF bill and having to find an envelope and a stamp and an address and get it sent. It just creates friction in the billing process as well. Versus in today's world, your clients are used to seamless, frictionless, one-click types of experiences. And so our ability to capture some of those will make for a better client billing experience. And what we've seen at LawPay is get you paid a lot faster. In fact, our average quick bill gets paid, 57% of them get paid within the first 24 hours, with an average time from sending the bill out to payment of 2 hours. And you compare that to the traditional paper check process, which can be 60, 90 days and is very unreliable. It's kind of night and day. E-check is another one that I cringe around as a client. Please do not send this form. Your bank is giving you this form. Obviously, I'm putting all my sensitive information on it, and I'm faxing it, I'm PDFing it to you, and then trusting it in your care, which is liability for your firm. Look for a cloud-based solution that allows you to very easily let the client input that information on a secure server where your firm doesn't have access to that information, and it's all fully tokenized and PCI compliant, which I think is really important in this world. And from a client experience perspective, this is so much more comfortable for me in terms of making a payment versus the old model of the direct deposit enrollment form. Payment plans are something we're seeing grow dramatically at LawPay with our clients in a number of use cases. We're seeing it be used for retainer-based clients, just setting up a consistent billing process where you can fix it and forget it and just charge the client on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis, whatever pace that you set up. We're also seeing payment plans come in a collection scenario where somebody can't pay the full $10,000 right now. Well, we can put $2,000 a month on the card for the next 5 months. And so there are many uses for payment plans and many ways to do it. Of course, LawPay has a scheduled payment feature, and many of the other software solutions do as well. This is one just from Practice Panther where it's just a very easy way to enter the payment amount, the dates of the charge, the repeatability rate, and when and how it ends. in order to make it frictionless for both the firm as well as the client. Feedback is another area that I think is really important under the client experience banner. It's sometimes uncomfortable to ask for feedback throughout the process of a matter, but I think it's very important that from a client perspective that you're showing them that you care, you want to understand. I would argue that it's even more important if the matter's not going well to be asking for feedback along the way. It just shows the client that you care, you're listening, you're trying to improve as a firm. What I would recommend is that firms look to use feedback in a very structured process, maybe at the middle of a matter and then at the end of the matter, but consistently in every client engagement in order to collect that feedback and then act on it. There are a lot of good tools for this. Clio happens to have a net promoter tool that you can schedule in the process of your matter, but there are many more that are out there that allow you to be able to ask for feedback. And it could be literally as easy as just a check-in phone call. How are we doing? How can we be doing better? What's working? What could be better if we improved? And I think that commitment to doing that on a consistent basis will really pay dividends in the end for your client. And then finally, a topic around reviews at the end of the case. I know it's I know it can be there's a lot of anxiety around ethical considerations as do we ask for reviews. But my belief is that the reviews are going to come whether you like it or not. They are focused on that you're probably going to get a disproportionate of the percentage of the negative reviews if you're not actively curating and managing. So my recommendation is that when you have a positive client experience, that you take the time to ask if they're willing to write a review on behalf of you and the firm, because this is what your next set of clients are going to see as they're researching your firm. And so you really want to make sure that what they're seeing is a representation of what kind of client experience you can deliver. If you're interested in learning more about the ethical considerations involved, our Claude Declue, who's a 30-year attorney, and also is our director of legal compliance here at LawPay, wrote a blog post on the ethical considerations in asking for reviews, and so you're welcome to take a look at that if that's something that is of interest to you and your firm. How we do it here at LawPay is we really open up our platform and make it open for we solicit reviews from all of our customers, and we actually read all of them and look at all of them. We're very proud that we have 5-star reviews for the most part across the board. But I will say that anytime we get something less than a 5-star review, we take action. We reach out to that client. We try to understand what happened and how can we help them improve that situation in the future and prevent it from happening again. Ultimately, I love this quote from Gartner: as competition and buyer empowerment compounds, the customer experience itself is proving to be the only truly durable competitive advantage. And I very much believe that, and as administrators inside of firms trying to help them operate in a way that is differentiated in the marketplace, I think this is a flag that you guys can really fly to help drive your lawyers and partners to create better and more consistent client experiences using technology. So to summarize, the things that love for you to take away from today. One is always looking at your firm's outgoing message. What is it communicating about you and who you are? Does it really say in that 7-second test what kind of firm you are, and will it attract the right types of clients that you know how to serve, your sweet spot? Are you using the right technology for your firm? So looking at onboarding, looking at file sharing, looking at billing, looking at document signing, those are easy technologies to add that can make a massive difference in how your clients view you as a firm. Look for opportunities to add that personal touch. Checking in with a client on a regular basis, inviting communication and comment, asking them how we're doing, what can we do better. Look like that lawyer when you meet. Do everything you can to promote that perception of the modern firm that truly cares about the client experience that they are creating. And finally, be candid, and as Claude says, consider every client as a friend for life, and you'll ultimately win as a result, and you'll create net promoters. They will pay you, and they will recommend you to others. So with that, hopefully that gives you a little bit of ammunition, and I'd be happy to open it up for questions if there are any.
Great. Thank you, Tom, very much for that comprehensive presentation. We do have one question to conclude with, and it's a question about, of all of these initiatives that you mentioned, for a firm who's trying to get more tech savvy, is there one area you would suggest focusing on the most?
I think that's a great question, and I think what I would start with is your process. Try to sit down and review your client process on an end-to-end basis. And really, instead of sitting on the lawyer's perspective and looking at it from a lawyer-centric point of view, take the client point of view and try to look at what does that experience feel like, literally from the moment that they're considering you as a firm to when they have that first contact, all the way through the client engagement experience, onboarding, the matter development, and through conclusion, and try to really map out that process and as it relates back to your technology. And then I think that by doing that, and you don't have to be a technologist to do that. You really, what you are thinking about is where are the points in your particular practice that are going to make the biggest impact on your clients. Because most of these are pretty easy. It's not that hard to add DOCUSIGN to the process and preload the documents that you guys are using on a consistent basis. Obviously from a billing perspective, it's not that hard to add LawPay or another cloud-based billing solution that makes it very easy for your clients to pay you and for you to be able to accept multiple forms of payment. But it is about figuring out where the biggest opportunities are in your particular practice to be able to make an impact.
Great. Thank you for that answer, and thank you again for the presentation. That's all of the questions that we had for today. So this does conclude today's webcast. Thank all of you for attending, and we will send all registrants an email tomorrow with the link of the audio and visuals for this webinar recording. Please visit our event calendar to sign up for future webcasts. And Tom, again, thank you for your insight.
Okay, thanks for your time. Good luck, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.